Thank you so much for joining us today. Wow, so many people. This is amazing. And so we're going to get started. There's a few more people in the waiting room. We just want to make sure everybody gets entered and is admitted.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah,
we're gonna. The webinar just started. There's a lot of people in there.
Okay. So we're going to ask everybody to stay muted. We'll have a chance for questions at the end. You're welcome, please, to turn your cameras on so that folks can see each other. And welcome. So my name is Rebecca Stahl. I am the Interim Executive Director of Somatic Experiencing International, and I am so honored to be here today with Glyndie Nickerson, one of our esteemed faculty members from Somatic Experiencing International. Glyndie teaches all over the world. And so I want to welcome everybody today to Building Resilience, Somatic Experiencing Tools for Post-Hurricane Relief. And Glyndie offered to do this as a follow-up to several hurricanes that have happened recently here in the United States, but we also know that hurricanes impact people all over the world. And so this webinar is specifically designed for folks who are not practitioners. If you're interested in a webinar that is more designed for practitioners, that is up on our website. Glyndie did it a few weeks ago. Thank you for doing that one as well. It was wonderful for anybody who wasn't able to see it before. As many of you know, Somatic Experiencing International, SEI, we are a 501c3 not-for-profit organization here in the United States. And so please, if you're interested in donating and offering these webinars to more people, making them more accessible for language translation, for new webinars, for scholarships for our programs, please consider donating on our website. And we are incredibly grateful, Glyndie, for your willingness to do this. And Glyndie, like I said, is one of our, I lost your bio, Glyndie. I'm going to pull it back up. So here it is. So Glyndie is a somatic experiencing practitioner, SE faculty member, holds a master's and PhD in clinical psychology. She has a background as a body worker, yoga teacher, Brennan healing science practitioner, and massage therapist. One of my favorite things about SE is the eclectic background of so many somatic experiencing practitioners. And Glyndie, I think you embody that as much or more than anyone else I know in the community. It is incredibly amazing to get to talk to you and learn about all of your background and everything that you bring to this work. For her doctorate, Glyndie conducted original research into firsthand experiences of what is healing for Tibetan ex-political prisoners traumatized by war and torture. As a trainer, Glyndie focuses on giving training participants theoretical and practical experience on how to integrate somatic experiencing into various frameworks such as psychodynamic therapies, the psychobiological principles of attachment, traditional cognitive-based therapies, touch-oriented therapies, mindfulness-based practices, and medical occupations. Like I said, eclectic background. She's amazing. She specializes in assisting others to rediscover how natural nervous system regulation can be. This regulation shifts chronic stress and trauma, attachment ruptures, chronic illness, and allows for new creative and spiritual development. Glyndie, thank you so much for offering this webinar today, for bringing it to everyone. Folks, we will have a transcript available, so you can turn on the transcript below on the bottom of your screen, subtitles as well. And we'll take questions at the end. We're going to try to end about 2:45 p.m. Mountain Time in order to have questions. Glyndie, all you.
Okay. Well, I'm very happy to be here with everybody. Thank you for the big welcome, Rebecca. And I'm imagining that many of you are working directly with people who have experienced hurricane trauma, but also many people here have probably experienced something of a hurricane and have felt something afterwards that's different in your nervous system, in your brain, in your body, in your thoughts. And so this is primarily for you. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen. We have a few exercises here for you, and you'll also be watching some video as well of me doing a demo with somebody, just to kind of illustrate some of these exercises. Yeah, so building resilience, okay, and these are for you to practice on your own, and you could also do this with loved ones as well. Okay. So remember here, from a somatic experiencing lens, right? Our nervous systems really want to release survival energy. We have these really amazing nervous systems that have the capacity to mobilize for threat, which is a great thing to have. And we also can get stuck in that mobilization where our nervous systems are stuck on. And we just need a little help to switch that perpetual fixation of feeling as if emergency is happening now, even though it isn't right now, not to the same degree. We also can have our nervous system stuck on off, which often happens when we've been mobilized and having that emergency response in our systems for a long time. And then eventually it switches off. Okay, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. But first, what are some of the signs that you might be stuck on or off from post-hurricane experience? Okay, maybe you feel like it's hard to be in the present moment, to feel your body, even if you're always in a flurry of motion. Okay, maybe you feel also like you're hovering above the ground, that your brain is really working fast, but you can't feel yourself present. You might even feel as if you're floating above the ground. Okay, you can't get your energy going. Okay, that would be more of the stuck on off. You're groggy all day, or like things don't feel real. Okay, could be any number of those, and we can be both stuck on and stuck off. We can alternate between the two. Also, your brain, is it hard to stop thinking? Or it could be the opposite. Thoughts just don't come. Are you feeling constantly distracted, irritable, confused, or maybe it's just very hard to focus your attention? Are emotions unavailable? Do you feel numb? And also, is this alternating with feelings of helplessness, tears, perhaps, dread, anxiety, or also angry outbursts, having some difficulties in relating to other people? Are you isolating because of that? Do hurricane reminders like seeing the wind moving the trees, okay, or hearing the sound of the rain on the roof bring some form of anxiety or discomfort, dread or fear, agitation? Are you having flashbacks of the hurricane? Intrusive images coming through? Is it hard to orient right now to the present environment? That you feel like you're not quite here? Are you accident prone because of that? Clumsy, disoriented when you're driving or walking? Any ding, ding, ding coming through of, yes, that's me? Do you feel okay when you're only when you're doing something, when you're in a flurry of activity, engaged in repairing, volunteering, or some sort of physical activity? Is it hard to relax and move out of that stuck on mode? So your short-term memory may also be worse, and you may have word finding difficulty. And lastly, is it difficult to plan? or doing your usual work activities or your hobbies? Do you have less interest in those things? Do they not bring you the joy that you used to have since the hurricane? Okay, so this is not an exhaustive list, but it's quite a few of the things that I found people experience after a hurricane. Okay, so here we have what we call the resilient nervous system here. So a little shorthand so that we can talk about the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is part of our amazing and intelligent body and brain. And what it does is it helps us to shift between arousal and activation to get things done, to get moving, to have energy, and also to rest and restore. Okay, so we have the sympathetic part of that system, which is that arousal, that activation part, that get up and go. And then we have the parasympathetic, which is more the settling elements of the nervous system. And we really want to be within these dotted lines here of a range of resilience, so that we're not getting overwhelmed by too much activation, too much of that sympathetic arousal, and also not going into too low of that rest and digest of the parasympathetic, where it starts to go outside of that range of resilience. Okay. So when we have a traumatic event, okay, this natural up and down rolling hill of arousal and settling changes. Okay. There we go. Here comes the purple lightning bolt of the traumatic event. And we have a tendency to move outside of that range of resilience. That's shown here by the red line. And so this would be here going, when we're going above this dotted line, the stuck on. Okay. And that I was talking about. That could show up as anxiety, panic, hyperactivity, hypervigilance, exaggerated startle, sleeplessness, not being able to relax, being restless all the time. It could also include emotional flooding and extreme emotions, okay, as well as digestive problems. Now, down here, the stuck on off includes things like depression, flat affect, lethargy, low impulse, low motivation, not wanting to get up at all, not having any energy to move. So cut off from feelings, exhaustion, chronic fatigue could be part of that. Disorientation, disconnection, dissociation. And then we have different things like complex syndromes that can develop from this stuck on off state, and pain, low blood pressure, and poor digestion shows up here too. So we want to have both of these parts of the nervous system operating right within this range of resilience here. And what happens is we can stay stuck in one state for a while. And it's not uncommon that we actually alternate between stuck on and stuck on off. So ANS means autonomic nervous system. Okay, so a new autonomic nervous system model that includes the polyvagal theory from Stephen Porges. Okay, is characterizing here that, and this is what I would like everybody to appreciate. We have, with that stuck on experience, when we feel that after the hurricane, we are often feeling mobilization responses to act, which is actually can be a very good thing to connect with, to feel that mobilization. But if it doesn't get a chance to really be felt and witnessed, you don't really get that sense in the nervous system that it's completing. And this is where somatic experiencing can come in to help. So there's these incomplete fight or flight responses, right? Fight, to stand your ground, to push forward, to make boundary, right? To protect, and flight, to get away from danger. Okay, so we see a lot of both of these, fight and flight, incomplete responses with hurricane trauma. The dotted, in between the dotted lines, this kind of middle zone here of where we are more optimal and not overwhelmed is actually the ventral vagal tendon befriend land. So we can still feel some arousal, we can still feel settling, but we also have access to our ability to connect to other people, the ability to feel and connect to ourselves, to our bodies. Okay. And then we have this freeze response, the dorsal vagal stuck on off freeze response. Another way to talk about that is immobilization responses. We get immobilized. So both mobilization responses and immobilization responses show up when we're working with hurricane trauma. Okay. So here comes the lightning bolt, and it takes us out of that range, just like I was showing you, right? And we can go into stuck on or stuck on off. Okay, sympathetic or the parasympathetic. Okay, but in these unbalanced ways, going outside of our range of resilience. Okay, now that we have that set up, now that we've talked about that, do you relate to being stuck on or stuck on off? Now go ahead and an invitation here to check on the inside, okay, of yourself. Do you feel one more than the other, or do you feel both? But right now, which one do you feel more? And I'm not sure if we can share in the chat right now. Is that possible, Rebecca?
It is.
But
Absolutely.
if people would like to share which one you're connecting with more right now. It's often a mix of the two after hurricane. We'll feel foggy and lightheaded at times, and other times just feel this go, go, go and not being able to settle. Yeah. Great mix of both. Some people are more connecting to stuck on off. Okay. A lot of boths. Yeah. Right. And just being aware of that. This is actually a really very empowering thing to be able to start to witness our nervous systems in this way. And this frame will help us to move forward with some of the tools I'll share with you today. Great. Love seeing what people are sharing. Yeah. Somebody's sharing both on can't sleep and off can't do much. Right. Yeah. More off at the moment. Someone else is sharing. Right. Was more on at the onset. Yes. So this is a witnessing capacity that really will help us with supporting coming back into resilience. Okay. So I'm going to show you a little video here. First of all, we'll show you a video. I'll give you a little bit of information about a tool. And this one we're calling Orienting. Orienting, it comes from Sokolov as well as Walter Cannon. And it's this amazing ability of animals, including humans, to orient to their environment to assess safety or danger. So during hurricanes, what happens? We see some pretty overwhelming things. And that overwhelming view that we see often is a moment of that gets frozen into our awareness and into our memory, into our implicit memory. Okay, that's like a non-declarative memory that happens that feels like it's still happening now. Okay, so let's just watch me with our wonderful demo, Brianna, who hasn't been exposed to, she's not a somatic experiencing practitioner. She is I think she's experienced a little bit of somatics before, 1 or 2 sessions with somebody else, but is pretty new to this. So I'm going to play this short clip of orienting. Open the eyes and just let the eyes, yeah, just and see how that is to let the eyes look around and receive your environment and receiving what's easy to take in or interesting, right? Or something you like or enjoy, a color or a shape.
The kitties are here.
Oh, they're kitties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which one are you drawn to look at right now? Is there one in particular?
Yeah, the one on the floor over here. He's rolling around being cute.
Oh yeah. Is he on
Yeah.
his back?
He's on her back, like doing a little thing. Yeah. Looking at me like a weirdo. Yeah.
As
Yeah.
you see her looking at you like a weirdo there. Yeah. Yeah, just taking her in. What's her name?
Her name is Cutie.
Aptly
Yeah.
named. Right. So I'm really supporting Brianna here to look for safety cues. Okay. A little earlier in this session, she began looking at the trees out the window, which is very common to orient to the danger. And she became aware that looking at the trees made her nervous. So a reminder when you're orienting, it might be good to orient on the inside or to things that are stable outside. Moving branches can also be activating and take us out of that range of resilience. So we're starting with this base of orienting to safety cues first. And notice that I kept her staying with the experience, right? And we in SE and somatic experiencing, asking yourself, or if you're working with a loved one, right? As I'm noticing that, what am I aware of in my body now? That will help you to continue to orient to the effect on your nervous system of noticing those safety cues. Remember, our nervous system is remembering the danger then. That's why we're stuck either on or off. And we want to give new information to our nervous system and brain that the danger isn't happening now. And even though we mentally know it, oh, I know the hurricane's over, there's a part of our brain and our nervous system and our bodies that are still clearly orienting to danger. And you can see this with Brianna in the way that she was darting with her eyes, a lot of sharp head movements as well that are part of more of that sympathetic stuck on part of the nervous system. Open the. So another invitation here for everybody. Now we'll do a little exercise. I want to invite you all to allow your eyes and neck right now to slowly move. And this is in order to help the brain settle. Okay, so just allow your eyes and ears, also your ears, okay, to take in the environment, your environment now, probably on the inside in your room, and notice something that's interesting or supportive to look at. Maybe it's a color or a shape. And take in a few details. Okay, and as you're taking in a few details of something that you like, okay, or find interesting, what do you notice in your body now? Okay. And continue to let your eyes move. We're going to slow down again. Remember, with that more stuck on, often there'll be darting eyes. So let the eyes slow down and land somewhere. Take in a few of the details of that. And hopefully it's not something that you dislike in the moment. And then go ahead and continue to look somewhere else, and then really land somewhere else and let your eyes take that in. So your eyes aren't just hovering in this darting and looking for danger. Okay. And as you're taking in this next object, okay, what are you noticing in your body now? So we look at something, we pause, and then we allow ourselves to receive what we're seeing. This is both a brain experience and it's a body experience. So what are you noticing in your body now? Okay, and then dart one more time and allow your eyes to land. We're slowing that down for a reason. And the neck will tend to go where the eyes go. Are you noticing a shift in your breath? Are you noticing any changes in muscle tension? Of heart rate, if you're aware of heart rate? Are you noticing a change in temperature? You might feel more heat. There might even be a little trembling or tingling, or just maybe a sense of settling a little bit more. Okay, so we often will experience a hypervigilance with our eyes after a hurricane because the eyes, as I was saying, are still looking for where the danger is coming from. We're still trying to locate it because it was a very big phenomenon. It was coming from all directions. Okay. So we're allowing the eye movements to slow down, right? And as I said, to really receive what we see. Okay. Also with hearing as well. Let your eyes move as they want to and to look where they want to, as long as it's not something that is overwhelming. Like I said, probably not looking at trees, may not be looking at sky either. Okay, but just allowing there to be some organicity to the movement of the eyes. Okay. So just a reminder, this is for future, because this is something we want you to practice a lot and can really help you if you get this as a practice to help the system to move out of the overwhelm and allow the brain and the body to settle. So it could be a color, shape, or a texture, something you appreciate in the moment, and then allow those sensations of heat, trembling, tingling. Also could be more space, a sense of more settling. Could also be a little bit of energy moving out through the arms or the legs. This is not only normal, but it's good for you to release this charge. Okay. So, what are you noticing now in your body? So we're going to do a little grounding exercise next, and then we'll watch a little bit of the demo. So important to know that with grounding, it can bring some activation, arousal into the system, that sympathetic part of the system, because when we have connection with the ground through our legs, right, we may feel some connection with the earth, the ground, and that may have a little problem in it in the fact that our trust got disrupted with nature, trust in the ground, right? Trust in our ability to trust the normal things that we're used to trusting in our environment. Okay, the weather, for instance. So the invitation here is to find a connection to gravity and feel contact. It could be the feet, could also be sitting in your chair and feeling the contact there. Sometimes it is easier to first feel the contact of the weightedness of your hips in the chair, or if the weightedness of your back resting into the back of your chair. So just notice where it's easier for right now. Can you sense the weight and allow your weight to rest down even a little bit more into the chair or into the ground? Okay. So what I'd like to invite you now, and this will include a little bit of movement, and you can stand with this. I'm going to stay sitting just for convenience. Standing can also be a wonderful opportunity here to feel your legs, but do what your body feels like. So we're going to just do some very slow leg movements here. Okay. So press your feet into the ground. Okay. Have your knees bent. Your knees will be bent, of course, if you're sitting. If you're standing, bend your knees. Okay. And engage the muscles in some way. If you're sitting, press through the ground, then release. Now lift up your right foot and let it drop down and feel that connection. Now lift up your left foot and bring it down. Okay, now flex your ankles, lift up just your heels, and very slowly let them come down. Okay. Stretch your toes. Now take a moment. What do you become aware of? Can you feel your legs a little bit more? And it's okay if not. Could go a couple of ways here. What tells you right now that your feet are there? Is there weight? Is there pressure? Is there temperature? Really check that out. And that is an interoceptive awareness that will help your brain recognize more safety now through this amazing quality of being here now of proprioception. Okay, noticing where a body is in space. So you may not feel the ground right away. You may not feel your body right now. That's okay. Stay with this exercise. You may even feel that you're hovering and you become more aware that you're hovering. This is very common after a hurricane. You may become more aware that you're numb or that your body feels far away. You might also start to feel a little bit of trembling, a little bit of heat or tingling. And if that's the case, is that okay to stay with it and allow it to spread? That is a support for releasing the survival energy that's built up in the system. So take some time for the feet or your hips to sense the chair, the floor, and you can report out loud to yourself. Okay, I feel my feet on the ground. I feel weight. I feel pressure. I feel some heat. Awareness will tend to move downward when we do this by us paying attention in the direction of our lower body. You may notice that through that heat, trembling, or tingling, it may have a direction moving down and out through the legs, could be also out through the arms. Sometimes it's up through the head and neck. Just allow that to happen. A lot of times people start to feel a little release and we stop it. Okay. So you can pause the movement, right? If you're moving, you can start moving again if you've lost the connection, but then pause it again to sense what you feel. Okay. Is there a sense of something moving? How does it feel? Also, overall, now that you've been doing this for a couple of minutes, so a note here, sometimes grounding reveals that there is survival energy that's quite high. Okay, sometimes what happens is people start to feel an increase of anxiety or nervousness because there's survival energy that wants to release and it hasn't quite figured out a way to release through this exercise yet. Okay, so while sometimes just being with this exercise and staying with it will allow some of that survival energy to complete, okay, you might also need to use an exercise we'll be doing a little bit later in this webinar, okay, called the empowering moment, okay, to release the stock, okay, and that can support grounding further. Okay, so just continuing to be aware of what you're noticing now. Great. Okay, so I'm going to show Brianna in our demo having an experience of grounding.
Yeah, it is fleshing out some of the stuff in my shoulders.
So flushing out some of that tension in the shoulders, or yeah.
Yeah, some of the tension, just constant holding that's there. It feels nicer to have some awareness of something, you know, from the bottom half. since usually it's all up here.
Yes.
It's nice to like not have this be the dominating energy.
Yeah, yeah. So there's more awareness in the legs and the strength and power of the legs.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And this is really very helpful because when we start to feel into that power of the legs, it helps us to kind of start feeling the ground a little bit more too.
Mhm.
Yeah. And how is that? As you're continuing to feel the power of the legs, what do you notice next? Noticing that little bouncing.
Yeah, when I put both feet on the floor again, and now I'm like letting energy like pull up into like my thighs, like feeling it like, yeah, the bouncing is kind of just helping me ground that there's energy there, that just like, oh yeah, here we are, like here we are.
Here we are. So becoming more aware of the lower body tends to support that ability to be more here and also to let some of that survival energy move out. That's keeping us either stuck on or stuck on off.
Yeah,
So another incredibly important part of this work that you'll see a lot in terms of somatic experiencing with hurricane trauma is that slowing down can really support the settling.
mhm.
Right, so in upper legs, yeah.
Yeah, now I'm like rubbing them and doing the heel tap thing again and like squeezing my hips.
Yeah, how is it to feel the hands on the thighs? Just slowing that down a little bit. Just let yourself feel the hands pressing down the thighs.
Feels good. Feels
Good how? Is it more in the arms or the legs that it feels good?
just feel like I'm really here. I just feel like that feels nice to be in one place rather than 17 places in my mind. It feels settling.
Yeah. Yeah. So to be in one place rather than in 17 places in my mind. So Brianna had the experience of she lost her house. Her and her family were in her basement during the hurricane, and a big tree crashed in. So after the hurricane, she came out and oriented to what was happening outside. So, like many of you may have experienced, if you've been through a hurricane, there's the during and then there's the after. And after is when oftentimes people have a big startle around what they're seeing and orienting to. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more, and we'll do a little exercise around that. But I just wanted to give a little bit more appreciation of the slowing down here. Okay. Feeling the body and that slowing down part of it really supports us to be able to start to come out of that very overactive mind or of the foggy mind and allow ourselves to really feel more like one whole organism again. Okay. And another part of slowing down, another way that we can do that through some somatic approaches here is a form of touch support. So here's an invitation to do a brain hold. So if you can place one hand at the back of your skull, okay, the lower part of the back of your skull, and one hand on your forehead. Go ahead and feel into the pressure that feels right for you. Notice the temperature of your hands. And allow yourself to feel this as a way of supporting your brain to feel some containment. Containment for overwhelmed brains. And what do you begin to notice? Is there a shift in breath? Is there a little shift in the tension that you might be holding in your head or neck? And it's okay if you are starting to feel a little release of tension in one place and then you start noticing tension somewhere else. That's just part of the process. If as much as possible, just keep your attention on where there is settling happening in your body now. Okay. And then take a little bit more time here to notice what settles next. Could be as you're staying with this hold, you're noticing some shifts in other parts of your body. All right. So this can often help us to be able to sense our bodies more. Sometimes that means as we start to become aware of our bodies, we might actually start to feel some of the activations there, but that is a step in the right direction in becoming more aware of some of that tension. Then we can apply our attention and allow that to shift as well. Okay. So now I'll show Brianna doing the brain hold. The pressure, feel the ideal pressure that feels nice for your occiput, back of your neck, and feels nice for your forehead also. Notice the temperature of the hands. All right. And what do you begin to notice here?
My head doesn't feel expanded anymore, like it does feel held.
Okay. So she began to feel more of a sense of the container of the skull. Earlier, she was describing how she felt like there was so much pressure in her head. So this is very common post-hurricane. So the brain held is a helpful tool. There's other ways that you can use touch support as well. You can touch the heart and the belly. You could also do a nice hug, right? Holding your outer upper arms. That can also bring a sense of containment. You can try that out as well. Again, noticing pressure of the hands, noticing temperature, and notice how the breath moves naturally. The pressure. So we'll talk a little bit now about restoring our capacity to connect to the environment. So phase one of that really was doing a general orienting to the environment to cues of safety. Okay. Second part here is we get stuck in startle. We see this a lot after hurricanes. And that's a very natural thing to happen, but we don't want to stay stuck there. So we're restoring the capacity to connect to our environment through an exercise that we'll be doing soon. So important to know that when we have a freeze happen in our system, when we're orienting to something that's overwhelming, we call that interrupted orienting. Okay. And when we have anything, could be anything like a hurricane, right? Anything that you see and you're overwhelmed by what you're seeing, what you're hearing, experiencing, can result in that. So what happens is we stop orienting to cues of safety in our surroundings and are only attending to cues of danger that are related to what we experienced at the time of the trauma or the overwhelm. It can show up as tension in our arms, in our shoulders, in our neck, and our eyes. Okay, if you can see my face and my body, big eyes, tension in the shoulders, often shoulders hiked up, and oftentimes a lot of tension and protectiveness in the arms. So we call this a frozen startle. It's very common. So remember too that we were working with the eyes moving earlier. The eyes are still trying to locate the threat as part of that interrupted orienting. Okay, and they'll often be scanning broadly and very wide-eyed. So again, we're working with allowing the eyes to land on something and noticing the body. Okay, we pause and notice any heat, trembling, tingling, energy moving out through the arms or leg or up through the neck, any more space, any beginning of settling. Okay, so I'm going to show Brianna working with the incomplete startle response here.
Trees down and seeing like what was actually happening. It was this like some shock value. I think there was a lot of like adrenaline that was pumping too. Trees down and seeing like what was actually happening.
Apologies here. So I just want to give a little context. When Brianna and her family came out of their basement around noon the next day after the hurricane, and this was in Asheville, she was seeing many things that she's describing, right? The trees down, and just notice the expression with the eyes and also the gesture as well as the tension in the head and the neck here.
It was this like some shock value. I think there was a lot of like adrenaline that was pumping too.
And as you're remembering that, what do you feel in your body in this moment?
Yeah, it's like this, it's almost like this sense of awe, like this sense of wonder of being like, holy moly, like having my mind expanded to see something I never thought I would have seen.
Yeah.
That there's like this like wide-eyed kind of feeling of like, whoa, it just felt
Yeah.
like forcing an expansion of like, oh God, have to, take this in and make this reality. Like,
And since you are you're a fitness instructor, right?
Mhm.
I'm noticing the way you're describing things, you have a lot of awareness in your body. And I'm wondering if it would be okay to do this gesture again and just slow it down. And there was a little pulling back in the spine too, as you were taking in. And you use the word ah there. Just notice in this moment what you're feeling and aware of as you're doing that gesture. Yeah, with that spinal pulling back. Wonderful.
It's almost like my brain is it's like trying to process, but it's also turned off in a way. Like it's just like taking in so much. It's like the intake is almost full, kind of being like, oh, I've reached capacity. And I just,
Yes.
stepping
Yeah,
back and widening the gaze and being like, this is a lot to take in. And there's a part of my brain that wants to be like, that's all. That's all we can handle right now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And what happens with that as you're sharing that now? There was a little breath there. What are you noticing in your body? It was a lot to take in.
Yeah, I guess there's like more emotion coming up because I mean, even up until today, there's still, I'm like, my system has been like, nope, that's enough, that's enough. But it's like, it just keeps coming. It just keeps coming, like having to, just come to terms with like, one thing after another, after another, after another, and just seeing more and taking more. And it's like,
Yeah. So did you see the different expressions here that were coming through the arms, right? And also some motion coming through. So we stayed with the experience of, right, the gesture and allowing this gesture to be experienced and to slow it down. Okay. So that's what we're headed to next. Okay. So first of all, okay, we're going to do this gesture. Okay. If you're willing to do this, allow yourself to feel what Brianna was talking about and the way that you can relate to that. You had to take in a lot. It was pretty overwhelming. Taking in the devastation from the hurricane, whatever that was for you. Okay. What happens if you allow the arms to come up? Okay. And let yourself feel this this gesture. Let yourself feel it in the spine too, this kind of moving away of the spine. Okay. It's moving back and the tension in the neck, the shoulders. Okay. And allow yourself to just let this, okay, let yourself, without the story, just slowly move your arms as if you're pressing and pushing away a heavy burden. Okay. And then take a moment, become aware of what you're noticing in your body. How does the breath feel different? Muscle tension, temperature. Okay, and let's try that again. So feeling into that startle response and allow yourself just to move the arms and then pressing all the way out. So this is really giving the brain and the body this experience of being able to respond. Okay. We're dealing both with an incomplete startle response, right? As well as the impulse to create some space for the body to be safe, okay? To make a boundary. So one more time. Feeling into that movement. And notice what you're aware of now. It also may be helpful for some of you as well to just feel into and track a little bit of this gesture, right? Just this part. Okay, the tightening of the shoulders, the neck. Allow yourself to feel it. Pause. And then very slowly begin to release that tension in the shoulders, neck, and arms. And this will be an incremental shift each time we do this. Okay. When we do these little incremental shifts, it's giving information to your nervous system that's supporting it to recognize that the muscles can release down because we don't have to react to the threat now. Okay. So we're really slowing things way down so that we can savor the recognition on a nervous system level, right, of release and that we can release because that we're taking in enough cues of safety right now. What are you noticing in your body now? Now that we've done that a few times. And you can adapt this. for yourself, with arms, without arms. Some people feel this startle response pretty strongly of feeling that overwhelm with the environment. Okay. And if you don't, you can just be with that shoulder and neck movement and allow that to release. Okay, so now an invitation with the eyes. Okay, can we just allow ourselves to feel the eyes? Just let them get really wide for a moment. You might remember back to that feeling like, woo, that was a lot to take in. Like Brianna was describing, woo, that was a lot to take in. So feeling that and then allowing those big eyes then to relax a little bit. Right, there's a lot of muscles involved, lots of little tiny muscles involved with eye movements. So let's try that again. Opening the eyes big and then softening the eyes. Allowing the muscles of the eyes to release a little bit. Again, it's just helping from in a bottom-up way from body to brain for the brain to begin to release. This signaling that's important for us to orient in a more emergency way through our eyes. Oftentimes what you'll see is the eyes will soften after this. And you'll see this later in the, now that I'll be going back to the video with Brianna in a moment, you'll see that in her eyes, a shift to more softened eyes. Important just to notice all the tiny shifts, whatever we're doing in all these different exercises. Any tiny shift is really crucial, okay? Because it's not just about that one shift. It's about this incremental overall shift that happens through paying attention to one moment of shift at a time. We're giving lots of signals so that the brain can say, oh, okay, it really, really isn't an emergency mode I need to be in right now. Okay, so we have another step here. So this is the fifth one. It's recalling a moment, an empowering moment from the hurricane or just after, and to share it with a friend. So this could be something also that you do with yourself, and you could write it down, write things down, or say it out loud. It's just a helpful way to stay on track and to stay in witnessing mode. Okay. So keep the recall of the empowering moment simple. It's very easy to get more complex and then get pulled into too much trauma and overwhelm. So we're just working with an empowering moment. So slow it down to notice what was uplifting in any way, in any small way. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be something that you did that led to your or someone else's safety or comfort. It could also be repairing a leaking roof afterwards and the memory of that and how good it felt. Could be when you got supplies for a friend, you could see the relief on their face when you got to their door, right? And then you can feel that in your body. So important here is that we will take a snapshot of this in our mind. Okay, so right now, try this out. Okay, take a snapshot of something that you are remembering. Okay, during the hurricane or after, that felt empowering or uplifting. Maybe you felt into your own strength and capacity. Take a snapshot of that. Let go of the story now and shift to the present moment body experience. Could also be image or emotion. Notice what happens as you recall that. Feel how the sensations, or if they're images or emotions, right? Notice how that strengthens you from the inside. Now, So this kind of somatic tracking of the response of our body is really key, right, to how we can come out of the emergency state. If you're working with a friend, ask them to pause you and ask how it feels in your body. Okay. Repeat this basic somatic question. And as you recall that, what do you feel in your body now? And if you can't access body, you can also ask for images, impulses, emotions, and any shift in thoughts. The key here is to slow things down and to keep staying connected to the present moment so that you don't get lost in the story. And that we're really harvesting resilience that was already within you, but that the nervous system isn't attending to yet and needs to attend to really be informed of the truth of your resilience. Okay. And yes, we have other parts of us that are more overwhelmed, but oftentimes because our brain has a negativity bias, we will tend to remember the overwhelming things more. We need to focus more on the empowering movements. So as I said before, if you are solo, ask yourself this basic question. And as you recall that, what do you feel in your body now? Okay. And then you write down the sensations, images, emotions as you recall the empowering moments. So here is Brianna recalling a very empowering moment. So she, after being outside and orienting to the damage midday after the day after the hurricane, she could not reach her parents. Cell towers were out. All phone service was out. Communications were all together. All the roads were blocked. So she figured out a way, using her bicycle and bushwhacking through fields as well, to go to rescue her stranded parents. If your body could do what it wanted to do at that time, go check on your parents. How would you imagine you would get to them if you could do anything? So we hadn't gotten quite to the part of her bicycling. Then I started because she talked about the feeling of helplessness because her parents were 2 miles away and she didn't know whether they were alive or dead. So the invitation initially was, how would you imagine you would like to go? So we're working here with some incomplete survival responses, incomplete survival fight flight responses here. And you'll see how that works. And then she'll start talking about the bicycle part in a moment. Do you run, get in a car, fly? Just let yourself be in imagining mode here.
Oh, like not realistic, just like whatever would make it better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're just to feel that impulse towards that. How would your body want to move to get there?
Yeah, we want to just run there.
Yeah, so let yourself feel that. Where do you notice that impulse? Is it in the legs, in the hips? Just notice what you're aware of. Is there tension anywhere? Is there energy?
Like my upper chest and still energy back here, but also in the front now, but like higher than my heart.
Yeah, and as you're feeling yourself running, right, let yourself feel into that one foot landing on the ground and then the next, with each step moving towards your parents' house. Feel the energy, feel the intensity of your focus to get there. And continue just feeling into that, moving forward 1 foot at a time.
I feel my body now in this rhythm, kind of like bouncing.
Yeah.
Because I actually did, like the next day I did like find a bicycle and like kind of bushwhacked my way over there, like on this bicycle, and you know,
So you bushwhacked your way on a bicycle.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like rode a little and then like threw the bike over a tree and then rode a little and then went down into this like boggy area where everything is destroyed and then like kind of walked through the, just like kind of made my way there. But there were some parts where I could like bike and I was just going to this place where I was like, pedaling, 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 like the really the push on the pedal and how that felt like strong and powerful and like movement and like getting closer and muscles are burning but keep going, and that's like where I went to, was just kind of like the pedals.
Yeah. Right. That rhythm. And as you're feeling that rhythm and that incredible focus, right, and intention, what are you noticing in your body in this moment?
I think there feels like good release in that, like just the exercise of it, like the metabolizing of energy and just the, letting things burn out. Like that feels really cleansing. And to take like a big huge breath from being out of breath, it feels life-giving.
Yeah. Life-giving, right? Connecting to that. Yeah. So connecting to these empowering moments can be really key to helping to reset the nervous system, right? And also to help release some of that incomplete survival energy through the incomplete fight and flight. Okay. So additional completion of fight and flight responses continued, okay, after that particular segment, working with the bicycling, life-giving. And where do you notice that in your system when you say that you feel like it's burning some of this energy?
I think it's more down in my heart and in my legs.
Yeah, in your heart and in your legs.
Mm-hmm.
What do you notice in your legs?
I can feel power, like power in there.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah.
And as you feel that power right now, can you stay with that and just notice what kind of sensations go with that power? Sensations or impulses, could be an image too.
It's interesting. It almost feels like a recollection of energy, kind of like what I described to you when David came down and told us about the tree and being like pulling it together, like, okay, but we're fine. Like, like we're gonna wrap it up and do, almost like a pulling togetherness. Like it feels, that's the energy I feel in my legs too. Like there's like a strength that is rising or something.
Yeah, a strength that is rising.
Mhm,
I feel that strength that's rising.
mhm,
Yeah. In your legs?
mhm. Yeah, like from my legs, like up to my center. Like it's just, there's like a culmination of it, like collecting and funneling.
Yeah. So it's collecting and moving up, funneling
Mhm.
upward. Yeah. And as you feel that quality, can we just notice what happens next? How it might shift or spread, increase, decrease, change. Yeah. So really important to stay with these resourcing experiences and ask a follow-up question as you're noticing that, what begins to happen next. Okay. And that helps people to stay with the resource of the power of the legs, for instance, and allow the system to really register, right, these empowering movements, empowering action. Okay, so just share one more piece here. Action mode.
That's when it just started to be like action mode. Okay, it's like my caretaking mode took over. Where before that, it was like anxious and worried and watching the wind and trying to like make sure my child was distracted and doing that kind of caretaking. And then in that moment, it became like caretaking for him too, like being like just trying to like I don't know, convince myself and him that it was gonna be fine. Or
right, and you were providing, right, your nervous system was recognizing that you were safe in the basement and didn't get hit by the tree. The house is damaged and he was overwhelmed with the house damage and grieving that, and you were holding this larger perspective. Right?
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
It almost felt like strong in that moment. It almost felt like clear-eyed or clear-headed. I hadn't seen it yet. I hadn't seen like what was happening. And I think it was probably in some denial. Like that was probably my brain was like, nope, don't focus on that. Focus on the fact that we're here and we're safe. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah. So clear-eyed and strong. Okay. This was when she was still in the basement and she took charge. And so those action mode moments where some kind of clarity or some kind of strength comes in, it's really important for us to begin to notice that and to appreciate that.
So there's like some compartmentalizing that like began at that moment.
Yeah. And that's a useful kind of compartmentalizing, and it's real strength and a real clear-eyed moment then. What do you notice in your body right now, in your emotions, in your posture, just whatever you're tracking in your physiology when you remember that strength and clear-eyedness?
I think it felt strong at the moment. I felt like I was the one that was gonna like be holding us together in that moment. So we wouldn't freak out. And then when you just acknowledged that was strength, I think that acknowledgement like brought a little emotion of being like, oh, okay, that good? It was good, like that little girl in me was like, did I do good? Like did I do a good job? Like she got that acknowledgement of being like, okay, okay, A plus, and that felt like a little tender. Like,
Yeah, you did good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So we stay with that, we linger with these elements, right? To really give ourselves, and if you're working with somebody else, just acknowledging, right, the strength and the capacity in the moment. This is what we often skip over and we don't appreciate and resonate with on a nervous system level. And when we do, we're developing and increasing our resilience. Okay, so just as a reminder, these basic resilience skills, okay, that we're teaching here, we're cultivating and savoring the sensations of release and settling wherever they're occurring, no matter how tiny the shift. And actually, small is actually good. These incremental shifts help the system to get these signals without it too big of a release. Maybe sometimes can help make a person feel a little bit more overwhelmed. Right? Every system's different, but so tiny is not bad. It's actually good. Okay. So releasing of that survival energy that we sometimes call deactivation or discharge is healthy, right? And and that's what helps shock to clear out of your nervous system. So we are noticing shifts in muscle tension, okay, such as less tension in the chest or the arms. Noticing shifts in temperature, staying with the heat as it spreads, for instance, it's part of that release of that survival energy. We also allow and even welcome trembling and tingling. Sense it from the inside rather than exaggerating it, okay? Allow it just to be what it is naturally. It's an autonomic nervous system response. Notice how it shifts. Where is it? Okay. Where do you notice it shifting? Okay. Does it spread? If the release feels too much, you can also just shift to an easier place to sense in the body or orienting out to something pleasant in the room. All right. So I'd like to open it up for questions now.
you,
I'll pass
Glyndie.
it to Rebecca.
Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate the way you brought this into what can I do for myself in the moment. So grateful. There's a question here, and interestingly, it came up similarly. I did a presentation on Monday, and somebody asked me a very similar question that I think kind of goes together, which is this movement towards strength, empowerment, embodiment. Is that what if that's dissociative, or is that a way to bypass the difficult feelings, or is that the goal of it, or does it have a different goal?
Yeah, so what we see, what I notice in terms of the overwhelm that people experience, there's a lot to begin to process. Okay, it's not that we're ignoring the pain or the loss or the grieving of that. It's that in order for us to be able to begin to process the enormity of what has happened, we actually need to begin to savor and appreciate these small examples, or big, of the capacity within us to respond to it. Even if sometimes during the experience we were overwhelmed or immobilized, there are usually moments of something arising, of clarity, for instance, or strength, as Brianna so beautifully described in the demo. Or it could also be a moment of a certain kind of something other than overwhelm. Those moments will help us to build the capacity to witness also those elements that were harder to be with. And part of that those empowering moments, like what Brianna described with bicycling and feeling that power, feeling that strength, being able to harness the mobilization that was there in her nervous system as a human being with a human nervous system to mobilize and respond, right, at that moment, to be able to feel that now, right, to witness that now, supported her system to also release a lot of that survival energy that's actually getting in the way of being here now. And that can be settling, helps us to ground more. By the end of the session, she was able to feel into her legs, feel into her power, and also some appreciation for what she was not able to really recognize as strength within herself. It might seem obvious to us, seeing her and what she's describing, but in the moment when these things happen to us, it all happens so fast. And also, it's wonderful to be able to, it's really nice if you can share that with a friend. It brings in the element of connection, right, as well, which is really important, to have that acknowledgement from somebody else, to have a conversation where they're like, yeah, that was a really clear-eyed thing that you just did, right? So if you can do that for each other, it can be a really beautiful thing.
I love that. Thank you. And so I often get asked, what do I do to take care of my nervous system? And I think you answered a lot of this. But what if I'm not an SEP or a somatic experiencing practitioner? What can I notice in my own nervous system or in my own self that I can then use to help myself in moments like this?
Yeah.
I asked that question wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so let me just kind of summarize. Really important to be able to just practice being as much as possible through being in the present moment, through orienting, through grounding. Take this video, you can use this as something to remind you of some of these basic skills. And the invitation here is also to connect with a friend and to share this with somebody. Share an empowering moment. Have them slow you down. Okay. Have a little time of connection with somebody. Now, if that's not possible, it's also really great to do this in your own system through writing down some of these responses and then tracking how you're feeling. Tracking meaning noticing, witnessing all the different shifts that are occurring in your body. The moment of startle that I was describing earlier, the reason that is highlighted here is it's a big part of post-hurricane recovery. Is feeling into those moments and then unfreezing, thawing out of those frozen startle moments. That and there's usually not just one, right? Many of you can recognize that these moments like, oh my God, and feeling the overwhelm of seeing something, and then you're somewhere else and you're seeing the devastation somewhere else outside of your neighborhood, and you have another one of these. So you can have a series of these moments that you can then be with and begin to slow that down and start to feel into just the gesture and be with that. Feel the emotions that happen with that and track the sensation level, right? Track what you're beginning to start to feel in a more slowed down way. Okay. And I'm just going to remind you, just because I'm just doing this movement, and that helps our bodies to start to feel like I can respond. I can be with my experience without having to leave my body, without having to go into a freeze response, and to begin to thaw out of that.
Love that. Thank you. I think we have time for one more question. It's here in the chat. It says, if Brianna had not been able to reach her parents in any way, do you or is SE able to work with how she would have been able to respond if she could have? Essentially, what do we do with people in the felt sense of powerlessness?
Yeah. Yeah. So there was powerlessness in what happened. And the way that Brianna was dealt with that was I'm gonna get around these objects that are in my way in the form of huge trees. I'm gonna get on that bike and I'm gonna keep bushwhacking until I get there. So we were exploring something that she was presenting as a capacity. But as you heard me say in the beginning, before we started talking about the bicycling, I was saying, if you could get there in any way, how would you imagine you would get there? I didn't know at that point that she had done the bicycle bushwhacking. Okay, so you could
That is so cool, by the way.
that, right? I know, it's great. Bicycle bushwhacking with Brianna, pretty cool. I'm sure other people have had their own versions of the bicycle bushwhacking that you went to go after loved ones. So I need to check on them, and I have this strong impulse and I've got to go. So that energy in the system, that is a really wonderful thing to begin to feel, both for its strength, and it's organizing the impulse that also helps to release a lot of this survival energy in the body that's keeping the system in that stuck on mode. Now, when she got to her parents' house, her dad had actually been medevaced and was actually seriously injured. So that's another part of the story. So then we worked with that. And then we worked with when she oriented, right, to when he did actually survive. But there was about 24 hours when she didn't know he was alive or dead. So we fast forwarded to when there was this the reunion and the wonderful upliftment that happened. for the whole family when he came back and was able to live with them.
Wow.
So, and then registering that relief, right? Registering that upliftment was a really big part of the work that we did together. So you respond as you can.
Thank you. And that's a really good reminder that, these demos, these webinars, they're moments in time. And I think it's, certainly everything that you've shared with us today, and you could actually see it in Brianna, right? She went from eyes darting kind of everywhere and very rigid to like leaning on her desk and relaxed and engaging and more ventrally engaged, as you shared at the beginning. And there's more to the story, and that takes often somebody with more time, more experience, a somatic experiencing practitioner. And so these tools can be very helpful in moments. And thank you so much. And if anything we've done today, or you're still experiencing increased stress from a hurricane or something else, please go find a somatic experiencing practitioner, another practitioner that can work with you. Certainly you can find them on our website and elsewhere. I forgot to mention this at the beginning. Glyndie teaches the SE training that is in Asheville. And so thank you. It's been an amazing experience. I actually got to be there a couple weeks ago and got to meet the community, and it's so touching to see how everybody has come together and working so well together. And it's just a beautiful way to see how community, right? The ventral vagal connection is such a part of this healing. I really appreciate that you said share it with a friend. Glyndie, is there anything, we've got 2 minutes left, that you want to add, share, that you haven't gotten to say?
No, I think there's what I would like to just remind everybody of is that, your nervous system has more capacity than you probably may know. And the only way we really get to experience that is by doing some exercises like this, where we're allowing ourselves and maybe daring to just feel into what it's like to feel in our bodies, right? In the moment. Even if you start hovering, start with connecting, maybe you're grounding and saying, I can't do it, right? When Brianna and I started working together, there was more of an experience of I can't really feel that. When I start to ground, I feel activated, right? But as we stayed with it, as we normalized, right, that there might be some nervousness, could be some heat, trembling, tingling, allowing that to shift, right? There'll be an incremental shift down, a little bit more settling. So if you can, just let a little bit more settling come in, and that's okay for now. Okay. And it will be that incremental shift that will help the system over time, which might be over the course of an hour, over the course of several days, help your system to become more solid and more stabilized in the present moment. And big thanks to you, Rebecca. Big thanks to everybody who's here, and for everybody who is, I'm sure many of you are also supporting loved ones who've had the experience in the hurricane as well. Maybe you didn't experience it directly. So thank you to everyone for supporting yourselves and other people during this time. And one last thing, on December the 4th, I am doing something that's in person for folks in Asheville. If you're in the Asheville community and you are not an SE practitioner, we are doing a short little, a little 3-hour support for resilience for folks who are practitioners. So that's 4 to 7 on December the 4th, okay, in person. And you can reach out. Let's see, you can reach out to, I guess you could reach out to me if you're interested. I'm trying to think who is, or Courtney Fincher, if you know Courtney Fincher. So G Nickerson at traumahealing.org. Okay, and that's for practitioners, mental health practitioners, body workers in the Asheville community. Okay, so thanks everybody.
Glyndie, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. And thank you for all you're doing. Glyndie, for Asheville, for the community, for the SE community. It's really, every time I listen to you, I see you. It's just an honor. Thank you everyone for being here. Rebecca Schwartz, thank you so much for tech moderation in the background. Y'all don't know how much she was doing back there, but it was a lot. So thank you everybody. And as you saw in the chat, this will be posted on our website within 5 to 7 business days. Assuming it all goes well. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you, Glyndie. It's amazing.